That makes sense. What about her final room?
Her final room,
It was very foggy.
with the curtains and
The piano.
yeah. I don't know really. Couldn't get much out of it.
It, literally speaking, it's probably a recital
Yeah,
where she made a complete fool out of herself because she didn't have time to practice.
that makes sense. Yeah,
Metaphorically speaking, the the curtain is closing over her wishes and the fog is showing it disappearing. I would think. Her wish
that's
for art, it's making it go away. She can't live in this world with art because of the fact it cannot be perfect because she has to do these things for her siblings.
coupled with all the other imagery. That makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna write that down. Excellent. Metaphor. Have anything else to say about her? I couldn't really get much out of her compared to, say, Ruby. She was pretty
No.
straightforward.
She seemed like I said, the most easy to interpretate.
Yeah, there wasn't much varying thoughts there.
Yeah.
So, the next up, Rose.
She's the hardest, I
Yeah,
have to say.
in perfect contrast. She
Well,
was.
she was most definitely the hardest. I think we finally, me and you finally came up with something the other night.
Yeah, probably should have saved that conversation so we could write it down, but
I think I remember it. So
let's hope. She was definitely the most spiritual, probably
yes,
religious, and as we said, the most difficult. One thing
and
we. No, go on.
we talked about that the spirituality would cause her world to be diluted.
Yeah, very desensitized, deranged. And as someone of her age, I think she was 11,
Hmm.
she was probably very easily influenced, which I think I
Yeah,
brought up. Of course,
impressionable. Everything around her made an impression.
yeah. And of course,
Balloons represented freedom. She could go anywhere if she were a balloon.
and on that thought, she was obsessed with floating, which, well, her wolf kind of touches on.
Yep.
Though her wolf was definitely the most out there.
Yes. But these delusions would make her possibly. She would be out of touch with reality. She wouldn't know what was real, what was not real.
Yeah, it was probably like a hallucination or a vision,
Hmm.
because, it's not every day you see a zombie cloud.
But everything in life could have been that way to her. She could have, when she got out there, she said she seemed to have this fear of water, but yet she gets out on this boat
Yeah, and
and
also,
just floats out there.
I think
And I,
in one of her dialogues, she mentions that being in water is just like floating. So, but of course, metaphorically, her wolf would probably represent. The way I took it was that it was just kind of representation of floating air, water. I'm not
I agree.
quite sure about the whole bloody limbs, but it was floating, and it did
It,
cause her to float.
yes. And the delusion could have been that she, thought she could float. She
Yeah,
thought she could fly. But
which,
obviously she could not,
yeah,
being human. Because she does seem to be partially, like, when she looks at the bird, the crow, I think I watched someone do the crow bit,
uh,
and she says, if I, something with the birds. She says, if I had wings like you, I could fly. So she's partially in touch with reality, but at other times she's just like, oh, it's floating.
I think what it is that she's in touch with reality, but as we discussed, it's kind of a distorted view of reality. She's very, like we said, obsessed with floating and delusional.
Well, I mean, she could go in and out. It really
That too.
depends. And that could be what was going on there. She'd gotten out of touch with reality again because
Hmm.
she saw this cloud zombie thing and was like, oh my god, it's floating.
Yeah,
And go, I can do that.
yeah, and
I'm not bound to this boat.
like with the lake, it was very misty. She could have just seen the fog and imagined this floating cloud man. Now, her house, her grandmother's house.
It was raining.
Yeah, very stormy.
Very loud rain.
I think I'm still partially deaf from it. It was...
Besides
go on.
the rain, there was lots of bathrooms and stuff.
Yeah. One of, like, her main hallway was a bathroom, I think. And of course, it was also full of stormy weather, water, floating objects.
Was she the one with the room of feathers?
No,
feathers
that was Ginger.
Oh, whoops.
She's next. But, like you said earlier, the first thing that crossed my mind was a fear of water. The room is flooding, there's rain everywhere. But after playing through a couple times, I think the water, I think I might have mentioned this last night, the water represented that the realization that death is always there, regardless of how spiritual you are. Going out into a lake alone on an old rickety boat, not a good idea.
Or it could also represent drowning in her delusion.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people commenting on the videos pointed out that the stormy weather might have represented her going on a boat and a storm coming in, and she getting washed off. Though that's literally, of course.
Yeah, like... It could be conflicting thoughts, trying to understand reality, but the delusion being so present all the time that it's so hard to fight.
Yeah, it could be it. I still haven't completely pieced her together, to be honest.
Yeah, she like I said, is the hardest. Can you describe some of her other rooms to me? Because I really don't remember her other rooms besides the rain and the bathroom.
Well, actually, was it her death room? I don't remember, but one of her rooms, I think it might have been her final one, there's a lot of furniture and stuff spinning around in a cycle.
That's her final one.
Yeah, what I got from that was that, again, the theme of floating. It was floating in chaos, and now that you mention it, the conflicting feelings would have created a chaos within her.
Yeah, the floating and the spinning out of control, she could have been losing control of her life because she couldn't define what was real and what was not real.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't quite remember all of her rooms. I know there's one where you enter in and everything's just flooding. There are a bunch of red doors, lightning, and it's just filling with water.
Was she the one with the, like, rows and rows of, like, gravestones? Or was that Scarlet?
Gravestones.
Like the little red things.
I'd have to watch it again.
I'm gonna have to go, like, look at the Rose video since none of us can, like, remember what's going on there. So, we might as well move on to Ginger while I'm doing that.
Yeah, anything we miss I can just add to the description. Alright, so Ginger. Some things you noticed about her.
There was a lot of red in her stuff.
More than any other character.
I do remember that. Everyone else is, they didn't have quite as much red. That's what I remember most of all, is red being everywhere.
And we'll touch on that later, because I do have a section here based on just the color, because as you said, it does have a few major themes, so I figure we'll touch that in specifics.
Yeah.
But with Ginger, I noticed that it's kind of like Ruby in that she's not like the other sisters. She's very tomboyish, not effeminate, loves going outside in an adventure, doesn't mind getting dirty.
Another thing I noticed about her is she really didn't seem to really want to be a girl. She wanted to go out on an adventure. She was more like a boy than any of her sisters, and she probably got picked on for that.
Yeah, like I said, like her dress style wasn't very womanly. Her dialogue showed that she was the type who would roll around in the mud.
And I mean, she climbed up trees and...
Yeah, and it seemed that she actually enjoyed being out in the forest. And when I picked up the feather, all the other girls, aside from probably Ruby, were kind of disgusted by it. But she was like, "Oh, hey, another feather to add to my collection."
She was very involved with nature.
Yeah,